Because of the deep Christian and occult nature of the Thule organization, which meant something like the Society for Research on Atlantis, its members searched in all ancient prophecies for when the Dark Age would come to an end. In his last days, Jesus revealed something about the days to come. These old secret prophecies revealed by Jesus to his apostles said that the beginning of salvation would spread from a country behind large mountains, where a great leader by the name of Elijah would be born. Jesus turned around while talking and pointed to the Roman legionnaire Longistus, who was a German mercenary. As a result, the German lodges believed that this secret gospel of John revealed that the land was Germany, the large mountains being the fortress of the Alps, and that the mentioned leader was already incarnated. He would free the world through the final battle in order to initiate the 1,000 years empire of peace and the return of Christ. This is how the Thule interpreted Christ's speech. In about 1,000, plus not quite 1,000 years, you will be reborn together with Elijah to free the world. He meant the 2,600 Essene followers who were Atlantean descendants. The actual prophecy was that light workers who had taken on his work would be reborn in approximately 2,000 years, together with Elijah, who at the time of Christ was John the Baptist, in order to herald the imminent return of Christ and of life itself, and to announce the end times. In this secret revelation, it was mentioned that the power would be taken out of the hands of the Hebrew Brotherhood. Jesus meant that the spiritual power would be given to another country. The German thule-society still identified itself with the role of world savior, which could free the world of evil. This idea became the heart of its anti-Semitic teachings. When this occult sect thought it was freeing the world of Atlantean Freemasonry through the Second World War, it expected part of this secret prophecy to be fulfilled. The brother war of the two priesthood castes of Atlantis was reenacted in the Second World War through the thule-society. The members believed themselves to be Christ's followers, fighting the battle for freedom from the Hebrew lodges. Yet these souls of the Third Reich were the other brotherhood of Babylon, which had lost power. The brothers from Agartha, who in their previous high culture in Babylon had lost against the Hebrew priesthood. The Second World War was a continuation of the Atlantean Brother War. It was karma, which is the greatest mystery, revealing that in fact the Jewish and the Germanic roles had emerged from a common Atlantean past.
The story of Agati and Shambhala is also impressively described in a novel by Russell MacLeod, The Black Sun of Tashilhunpo. The novel is about the battle between these two forces, and in one part of the story, a 91-year-old former SS in Tibet tells a journalist pursuing the story how these two forces behave. He relates how Agati and Shambhala and their legend have intervened in real history.
Shambhala und erzählt ihm, wie diese Legende in die Realgeschichte eingegriffen hat.
Therefore, the Thule-society was a precursor to the original cell of the NSDAP, in actual fact, an extension of Agati. The successors of Sepp Ottendorf, Dietrich Eckart, and in his trial Karl Haushofer, initiated Hitler into this legend. They made it clear to him that what he represented in the National Socialism was the work of Agati, and that Agati fought against its opposite Shambhala, which at the time, and even later, had primarily gathered forces in the Freemason lodges and in the organizations of the Jews. That is the story behind it all.
Churchill and Roosevelt were the leaders of the Freemason Brotherhood, and Hitler was the leader of the thule-society and the New Templar Order. In the prophecy stating that at the time of the return of Christ, the head of the serpent would be crushed, it was not meant that the Freemasons and the Illuminati would be violently destroyed. On the contrary, it meant that through the return of the inner cosmos, the Christ powers would depossess the world powers through the overcoming of polarity in man. When the Eagle, that is the Space Brothers, has landed, there will be no world powers left, because from then on, there will only be ascended and conscious beings on Earth. They will have lived through the resurrection and will be connected to their inner truth. The return of Christ, thus, is the revelation of the planetary spirit in man, out of which he can read the whole truth himself. And thus we can perhaps only guess that the apocalypse, to a great extent, will take place in the mind of people and only partially in the outside world. The true light children and Christ followers were to be born much later, and their mission is more healing of the earth through the overcoming of polarity than the waging of wars. The Thule organization believed then that the new golden age had already started, and that Elijah and the great Atlantean souls had already been born to release the world from the dark forces. When Dietrich Eckart von Sebottendorf and his followers consulted several spiritual mediums, the name of the young officer Adolf Hitler was mentioned to them through the astral world.
The fact that Hitler was to be a kind of Messiah who would free the world from the Jews and from the dark forces is indisputably the direct experience in National Socialism. He himself surely also had this experience of being the chosen one. He repeatedly spoke of providence, by which he was guided. At the end, he was not happy with providence, and he said that providence could not take responsibility towards the German nation of Germany losing the war. This is indeed a strange thing, but before that, he undoubtedly felt called upon, that is, chosen by providence, to play a fundamental role in the world history and to free the world from the Jews and thus from the lower human beings. Dietrich Eckart was somebody who had a strongly anti-materialistic disposition. Actually, he drew his worldview from the spiritual. He was influenced by Schopenhauer and by a medieval mystic by the name of Angelus Elysius, who lived in the 13th and 14th century. He was inclined towards spirituality in literature and in his own experiences. He rejected materialism. He saw the people who were gaining influence in Germany and those in power as symbols for materialism. On the one hand, they were the Marxists, and on the other, of course, the liberal bourgeois and the capitalists.
Und auf der anderen Seite natürlich die bürgerlich-liberalen und der Kapitalismus.
These spiritual ideas by which Eckart had been strongly shaped were surely passed on to his pupil, Adolf Hitler.
Adolf Hitler's occult past already began during his years of study in Vienna. He read Nietzsche's Superhuman, Übermensch, studied the secret teachings of Helena Petrova Blavatsky, the secret revelations of John, and regularly attended the lectures of Guido von List. He was definitely a subscriber to the occult magazine published by Lanz von Liebenfels, which already glorified the racist madness, the male sun cosmologies, and Aryan culture. He found the climax of his spiritual ego in the legends of the Nibelungen sagas. In Vienna, his desire already took shape to release the world from dark forces as the Germanic Messiah.